Alright, I'm sorry to get your attention this way, but people just don't seem to understand there literally were giants in the earth. Now, my background is molecules, and I have the absolute 100% evidence to prove this, and you'll see it very shortly. Alright, I'm showing you this because I just want to let you know that I feel qualified to speak to this. I was in the semiconductor industry, and all this stuff is about semiconductors and the way molecules bond and all this business. And I mean, I still refer to this stuff today. This is not something that that I don't understand. I understand this deeply, and there's a lot of information here, and it's all deeply packed with formulas, and I mean, there's nothing here that you're going to figure out in a couple of minutes. Now, my point is that when I studied all this stuff for the way molecules concentrate and semiconductors form, I realized that things were not as we were told about the matter that's in the ground and everywhere, literally. So I work with molecules and atoms, and I feel 100% qualified to speak of this. And the problem I'm having is that there is no one else that's qualified. I get people that say, oh, I'm a paleontologist, I'm an archaeologist, I'm a fossil guy, I don't know anything, I'm a geologist, all I know about is rocks, or everything is a rock, I'm a biologist, everything's a piece of meat. I'm an anatomist, it's all structure, or I'm a chemist, and all I know about is molecules. Well, you have to know every single one of those things to put this together, and that's what I'm going to show you right now. Alright, the evidence I have rests primarily on the fact that tendons are literally minerals in your body that are flexible when they're wet, and when they dry out, they turn hard as glass. And they're made out of collagen type 1, which is a calcium-rich bone. Literally, it's the same thing your bones are made out of. However, when they're in the structure of connective tissues and tendons and fascia, they have a different anatomy to them, and they're like pine cone overlapping, and they have this lacy looking structure. And if you look, you're going to see that this is all the different types of, well, not all of them, but it may be all of them, but these are different types of tendons, and these are certain thing, and I will show you this type. And these are the board style, and they are laminated with this little red slurpy in between, which is the synovial sheath that covers them, so they can slide and they can move independently as like a bundle of cords. These are the flappy ones, like this style here, and they wave and have some bit of elasticity to them. And then there's other types of tendinous, and then it just shows how, and then you have this lacy style. Now, let's concentrate on this lacy one here, because this is what I want to show you. And I'm just going to break right into this and say what I believe is true, and it is going to shock you to your core. Now, if you look and you see this lacy material, these are that calcium-rich mineral white stuff, and then these layers here, you see them? These are the blood-rich investments that supply the nutrition to do whatever needs to be done in that particular organic tissue. Now I'm going to show you a picture of some mountains that are made of the same stuff. And I am saying that the earth is made of giant creatures. Alright, now there's exactly the same structure. It's very hard to miss that. It's exactly the same identical structure. These are the same materials. And that's the blood supply, and these are those little spiky little mineral rich parts. Now, I don't have sources on all of these pictures and so forth. If anybody's using anybody's pictures, please contact me and I'll give you credit for them. These things were sent to me by a lot of people, and I don't even know where they came from, but I do know that that these are geological features that are found all over the world. It's not just here. You go out in the Grand Canyon out in the Midwest, I mean, into the west of the United States, it's just littered with things like this. Utah is unbelievable. I can go in Utah and find veins and arteries everywhere. The earth is literally built of creatures. I'm going to show you something for a little bit of shock value. Hold on a second. Like I said before, tendons are calcium. Calcium is limestone. This is a tendon. That was some creature's foot that went into the ground. They died in the Great Flood, standing up, and were petrified. Tendons only. This is what's called an abrupt transition. You see that flat spot like a pancake? Above that started into the muscle tissue, which deteriorates away. But this is where that abrupt transition, and it is flat as a pancake. And it breaks off there as the tissue converts from mineral, and this would have been the muscle. And I have these in mud fossils. Now, you see these water flows in a regular pattern everywhere? That is the product of arterial blood supply coming up through, I think they call them Haversian canals, up through the bone and the tendinous material to feed it with blood. And the arterial supplies are open, the veins clamp off, so those are not a source of water. But the arterial ones are open because they're blood. And when they died, the blood literally washes out, leaves the tubes open, so you have built-in plumbing. Now, here's where we're getting to the point of all pyramid-style structures. They started off with this. They built down. They didn't build up. These are made in blocks. I'm going to show you. These are actually literally blocks of stone. And the blocks of stone they took off, they didn't even have to hardly cut them. They come off in blocks that are almost perfect rectangles. And that's the way, and I will show you that the tendinous material that does that as well. And the stone at Baalbek is tendons. And those tendons were just picked up off the ground. They didn't work those. They didn't cut them out of anywhere. They were just falling on the ground from structures like this. And this would have been broken off and worked its way down and made into pyramids. And this would have been a big one. All right, this is what happens inside of a bone. The tendon sticks in, that ball goes right in there that I just showed you a minute ago. And this square block here is not just showing it's square, it is literally a square block. Absolutely square as a block. Now, this right here, you see this purple? This is what they call the abrupt transition. And it goes from the bone material, and as it transitions up, it turns into a fibrous neck, and then it makes a transition abruptly, flat as a pancake, and above that you start into your flexible, it's a different material. You can see it's obvious. They show you here, it breaks here. Now, then they show you the micro shots of it, and you can see it's patterned like this, and all of the stuff you see has that. And they break off in blocks, literally, they break off in the blocks that you see that build everything. And this is made out of limestone. This is limestone. Now there's other limestone that comes out of the ocean deposits. And those are the exact identical minerals that are in the limestone that is in tendons. It's a natural collagen matter, number one, that creates structural things, including muscles, not muscles, bones, connective tissue, and tendons. And the structural parts of your body. And those structural parts of your body are somewhat elastic as they remain wet. And if they remain wet, they will remain to some degree elastic, and then at some point they will dry out and petrify as the molecular, the pH levels don't change. In a body, there's a chemistry going on continuously, and that's why everything stays gooey and so forth. But once you die, that chemistry process of the conversion, sending this stuff, taking this stuff back, and it stops, and then things literally gas off and explode. All of the things that normally would be passing the gases back and forth and doing a natural process can't do that anymore. They literally blow your body up, and the decomposition creates gases. You explode. And things push out through the least restricted orifices, which is the arterial orifices, which have no restrictions. They push blood through. Veins, on the other hand, have clamps, and they're not allowed to have the blood flow back into the good blood. So it ends up having the arterial blood supply the water in all of these ancient megalithic sites, and because it's forced up like an artesian well from below through these arterial tubes, and they flow up through the top, just like you saw in that gigantic tendon with flat top with the mountain with the waterfalls falling off, and they fall off in exactly the right places because they feed. Well, I'll show you. All right, here's what I'm saying happened. These are Achilles tendons. This is the ball of the Achilles tendon that when they're standing up, that would end up being stuck in the mud, and these are the calcium fibers sticking straight up, and they are fibers. They're little tiny itty-bitty fibers that calcify, they're calcium, and when they crystallize in the petrifaction process, mineralization, they turn angular and flat like little, well, in some cases gigantic limestone boards, and they will have this red FeO3 oxidated red blood thin film in areas covering these limestones, because that is what's called SLRPs, leucine-rich proteins that are the synovial sheathing that covers these little tiny fibers, so they can all move independently against each other. They don't glue together, and that's what fascia is.